Okay. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. So I'm Kimber Bogart. I'm the Deputy Executive Officer and Director of Programs at the National Academy of Medicine, and I'm very pleased and very honored to be able to welcome you all here today. So I want to not only welcome our in-person participants, but we had over 800 people register online, so I want to definitely welcome all of our online participants as well. I want to also acknowledge the planning committee who really helped us plan and bring you all in the room today and help identify who you are. And this planning committee was actually led by Christina Wint, who is our program officer, who really was instrumental in creating this agenda, working with our planning committee and finding really incredible leaders to bring all your unique experiences to us today. So I just want to thank you all for that. So those on our planning committee who you'll see throughout the room and throughout the day, Yvette, Pat, Angela, Masheri, Otho, Lenny, Velma, Albert, Anna, Antonia, and Christina. So thank you all very, very much for the extra time and effort that you put into working with us for this meeting. We're also really blessed today to have our previous director, Ivory Clark, in the room with us today. Where's Ivory? Where's Ivory? Ah, okay, not here yet, okay. But I know she's here in town, though, because I heard she checked in the hotel. But we're also blessed to have our new director, Amy Zhao Moyer, with us. So very excited. She's sitting right over there by Velma. All right, and you'll also see our program staff throughout the day, and many of them are assigned to your table, so be sure you get to know our staff. So there's Shania, I saw floating around. There she is in the back. There's Shania. We have Elsabeth, Jessica, Kat, and Hope. And later you're going to meet Beatrice and Michelle, who'll be coming in and help with some of our table activities. We also have our communications experts, Sammy and Talia and Kenji with us. And I want to give a huge thanks to Lorenzo January and his team with Spark Street for running everything tech for us today. So thank you, Spark Street. So we conceptualized this meeting with the committee of advisors to bring together activists and coalition builders who are actively working to dismantle structural and systemic racism with academic scholars, particularly our scholars working on a special publication that you'll be hearing about throughout the day. The special publication is really focused on actionable solutions to dismantle structural and systemic racism to advance optimal health for everyone, everywhere. For over 18 months, we've been working with over 40 authors and 48 reviewers for a special publication that you'll hear about at your table activities in particular. So many authors are in the room with us today, and I hope you get a chance to get to know them, and many others are online. But both of these groups, activists, campaign organizers, coalition builders, as well as our academics and scholars, work in and with communities. And they're often members of the communities that they serve. And they have a goal to highlight actions to make meaningful changes in the lives of people who lack full access to the U.S. opportunity structure. The approaches and tools that they each use are typically different, and the audiences are also generally different. But can coming together enable us to be greater than the sum of our parts? Can we create a movement to achieve health equity in the U.S. by listening and learning and working together? So this is the experiment that we're putting forth to you all today. So I challenge us all to get out of our comfort zones, to put on our activist hats, to meet someone new to partner with in this movement. And so that is what I'm charging you with today. And I have full confidence that there's going to be a lot of magic that happens in the room. I also want to acknowledge our graphic recorders, Lucinda Levine, who's with See in Colors. You'll watch as she graphically designs the meeting on that screen over there. And I want to make a special call for any Photo Voice participants, anybody who wants to bring your voice to a broader community working on health equity. So you can learn how to participate by contacting Shania Taylor. So Shania Taylor, staylor@nas.edu, and maybe later we'll get that photo voice slide up for you all. I want to highlight some of the speakers in our opening session and refer everyone to go to the bios in your briefing book to learn more about these speakers and the speakers throughout the entire day. In this way, we can maximize our engagement and participation. So you can actually click on the QR code that's on your table, and that will give you direct access. You can download all the briefing materials. So first, I want to identify Jake Fitzimanu, who's going to provide our Samoan welcome. And Jake is one of our NHPI authors and our Culture of Health advisors, and we're really grateful for his leadership. I want to also identify Julie Merida, who's from the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. She's our funder, our collaborator, and she partners with the National Academy of Medicine to advance health equity in the United States. And I also want to give a huge shout out to our Senior Program Officer, Tina Cow, who can't be with us today. We work very closely with Tina as well. Our president, Victor Zhao, is very passionate about health equity and ensuring that we do our part to remove barriers so that everyone everywhere can live a healthy life. He can't be present with us today, but he did provide a short video, and we'll be playing that, and I'll provide some of his remarks as well. Tony Villaruel, our chair of the Culture of Health program for almost 9 years. Thank you, Tony. And under her leadership, we've worked diligently to advance the science, convene diverse stakeholders across sectors and from federal and state governments to local community leaders. I want to acknowledge that we have many of our advisors in the room with us today as well, and many others online. And again, you'll find a full list in your briefing materials. There's an advisor page in there. We also have a science panel, and I know that Taylor was going to be joining us today from the science panel, so I'm glad he can join us. Additionally, folks who are going to be opening up the meeting for us today is Jess McPherson, a master artisan and arts and culture strategist. So I want to thank Jess for being with us. She's from the Susquehanna Native community. She's going to acknowledge and remind us of the lands on which we're holding this meeting. We want to make sure that we take this with us as we progress through the day of activities. Jason Chu is our MC for the event. He's an artist and an activist. I have downloaded all of his music on my Spotify account, and I work out to it at the gym. I encourage you all to do the same. It's really inspiring. It's amazing how he brings all of these ideas together in this platform of art. So definitely you'll be meeting him and throughout the day. He will be inspiring, engaging, and he will be encouraging us to think critically about how to unify together so that we can advance this movement. So please refer to the briefing book materials again to learn more about these incredible people who've worked tirelessly to dismantle structural racism here in the United States. Additionally, we're excited to fully engage our online participants and even in the room via Slido, our Slido platform. And so you'll see how to engage in Slido here. So there's a QR code. There's also a QR code in your briefing materials in the logistics document. So today's a full day with a screening and dinner tonight that many of you have registered for. The Fight for Black Lives that's been directed by Ms. Sherry Keels, who is our lead author on our Black and African American paper. And finally, I'll say that I'm humbled and I'm excited to learn from you all today as we launch this special meeting of the National Academy of Medicine's Culture of Health program. So thank you. And now I will turn it over to Jake.
Good morning, Talofa. Instead of making a long, complicated speech, which is usually how Samoan people do this, I think on behalf of our attendees and participants today from the largest ocean in the world, I will offer an invocation in the form of a song, which is interesting in that it's a pre-Christian melody, which missionaries set a Christian message too. So I think that reflects a really interesting dynamic, and also want to greet and thank our hosts, who are the indigenous people of this indigenous land today. Yesu le alofa mai fa fofo ngai a te au. O e o te mapu ai I le ngā luma le au. Aua e te tūmamao a o angi le awha. Tautai mai ai le vasa whaingata. Tautai mai o sau I le vasa whaingata. Ia Manuel tātou mafutanga. Ia soifua.
Great. Thank you so much, Jake. That was actually really beautiful. Now I'm going to invite Julie Merida.
Thank you for the warm welcome, Kimber, but thank you, Jake, for that beautiful song. It was just really powerful. Thank you for doing that. A big thanks to the team also for all the work that you did to make this convening possible, and to all the advisors and authors that are part of the National Academy of Medicine's Culture of Health program. Can you feel the energy in this room? I mean, Jake really just kicked it off incredibly well. This room and this Zoom are just brimming with both wisdom and commitment. And while we come from different fields and bring a variety of practices and approaches, we have a common goal: forging a path to a future where health is no longer a privilege, but a right. At our last in-person meeting, Gail Christopher reminded us that we live surrounded by a narrative that tells us that there's a hierarchy of human value, that some people get to have opportunities in multiple pathways to a thriving life full of choice and agency, while others do not. But we're all here because we do not accept that narrative as truth. We're committed to understanding what's standing in the way of health for far too many of us, and to taking urgent action to tear down those barriers. Whether you're here as a researcher, an activist, a scholar, or a policymaker, we're grateful to you and the crucial work that you're doing to create the nation our neighbors, our families, and our communities deserve. A nation where everyone has a fair and just opportunity to reach their best possible health, no matter their race, ethnicity, or class. Thank you for leading us into the future where both institutional and lived experience data and research are honored and nurtured. Our way forward will be anchored in the wisdom of communities and the best available science. What COVID and the racial reckoning have illuminated so starkly is that our systems of prevention and care are broken. We have to operate differently if we want to be able to heal as a nation. At RWJF, we've crystallized our view that we cannot make progress without addressing one of the biggest barriers to health in America: structural racism. Structural racism is a persistent and pernicious barrier to health equity. It leads to fewer opportunities in jobs, education, lending, housing, and unfair treatment in the healthcare and legal systems for people of color. The health disparities that pervade our nation are the result of generations of norms, policies, and practices that place more value on some lives than others. The good news is that since people created these systems, we can change them. With the National Academy of Medicine and all of you here today, we share a vision that research is more robust and meaningful when conducted by a diverse group of researchers, including communities closest to the solutions. As we move research into action, we'll need a comprehensive understanding of the evidence base on how racism is embedded in our systems and what solutions work to transform these systems to prioritize health equity. The papers in the upcoming special publication series will help us understand how diverse communities are affected in various ways by historical conditions of structural racism. What are the present-day disparities? And what solutions will work to address structural racism as the root cause of health inequity? And it's critical that populations who've been historically marginalized are the ones creating and shaping the evidence base. That's the strength of the work you're all here to do. Rather than lumping populations together under people of color, you're looking deeply at the unique assets and barriers faced by each population, led by the wisdom and expertise of the people in the communities. The special publication will dispel with a tokenistic approach to naming populations, to working deeply with Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islanders, Black, and other populations to detail the ways our systems are working or not for us all. We're both learning and modeling the ways in which communities most affected by research questions can influence the design, implementation, and application of the findings. The research agenda that informs bold and lasting policies and programs that will improve health and health equity in the US can no longer be set by academic and philanthropic institutions. Data can only be accurate if it's rooted in what communities need and what they're facing. Making data more transparent, accessible, and collaborative will ensure that our evidence can inform policies and procedures that help everyone, not just some of us. Those of us in institutional roles, for better or worse, can often access spaces that others cannot, and we do not take this privilege lightly. We're committed to leveraging our relationships to connect advocates and communities with traditional centers of power. That way, together, we can do more to fundamentally change the systems that determine how health and well-being is valued, funded, structured, and supported. At a time when efforts to address racial equity and dismantle structural racism are under constant threat, it's more important than ever that we stay the course and double down in our commitment to name and explicitly address what's standing in the way of health for so many of us. Trust isn't just about hearing the voices of those most affected, though that's critical. Trust comes from putting the feedback into action and for lasting change, and ensuring decisions continue to prioritize the values and the needs of those most impacted by structural racism, sexism, ableism, and historic disinvestment. We don't have it all figured out by any means, but at RWJF, we will continue to share our stories from our journey and hope you'll do the same. I love this quote from Daniel Kwan, co-director from Everything Everywhere All at Once. The world is opening up to the fact that genius does not stem from individuals like us on stage, but rather genius emerges from the collective. We're deeply grateful to all of you for stepping into this hard work with courage and humility. The evidence you're building is urgently needed, and we're eager to learn with you. I can't wait to see the genius that emerges here today and from our collective work into the future. Thank you for being here and for all the work you do to pave the way to a future where health is for everyone.
Thank you so much, Julie. For our online participants, just want to let you know that we are working on the audio echo. Now we're going to play a video from our president, Dr. Victor Zhao, who unfortunately couldn't be here with us today, and then I'll read through some of his remarks to you all today as well.
This is Victor Zhao. As you know, I'm the president of the NAM, and I'm recording to tell you how much important this meeting is to me. And I'm in Zambia, and I have a medical emergency with my wife, so I won't be able to make it back to DC in time for your meeting, which I really wanted to. I know how important this meeting is, and I'm giving this very short message to tell you how much it means to me, NAM, to all of us about what you're doing, and hopefully that I'll be able to see you next time. Truly apologize, but this is a real medical emergency for my wife. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll just provide a few words and messages from Victor to the group that he would have provided himself in person. He wanted to welcome you all to this pivotal gathering at the Culture of Health program that's proudly funded by the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. For the past 9 years, our partnership with the foundation has been a cornerstone of our efforts to advance health equity across the United States. Together, we've made significant strides toward ensuring that everyone in this country, no matter who they are, where they live, have the opportunity to be healthy and reach their full potential. So as we begin today, Victor wanted to acknowledge the tremendous progress that we've made at the National Academy of Medicine's Culture of Health program. This is a multi-year collaborative effort that's dedicated to deepening our understanding, mobilizing evidence, and identifying strategies to create and sustain conditions that support equitable, good health for all. Our mission is driven by 4 key aims at the program of the Culture of Health. It's to lead by building and elevating the evidence base on health equity, to engage by facilitating collaboration among key stakeholders and actors, to translate by communicating evidence in culturally informed ways, and to sustain by ensuring long-term commitment and progress. The National Academy of Medicine's Culture of Health program stands as a beacon in catalyzing urgent conversations and actions to address structural racism. This program has not only elevated our own internal understanding internally at the National Academy of Medicine of our systemic injustices, but it's also empowered us to advocate for transformative changes that dismantle barriers to health and well-being. So today's agenda is rich with opportunities to advance the aims and mission of the program. So our speakers and presenters and everyone here, all of our participants, including distinguished leaders from the community, will delve into critical topics like health equity, structural racism, anti-racism, systemic change, and the impacts of colonialism. As some of you might be aware, we're gearing up to release this special publication, as you've already heard a lot about and you'll continue to hear about. Currently, the title is Systems Impact on Historically and Currently Marginalized Populations. This series explores the role of various systems in influencing disparate health outcomes for historically and currently marginalized populations. It sheds light on the historical and current context of systemic and structural racism, how these forces perpetuate oppression, and identifies opportunities to dismantle these barriers to achieve health outcomes for all. In the discussions today, we will also focus on building momentum toward the release of this publication, emphasizing systemic structural changes as levers for addressing racism and illustrating the importance of community in achieving racial and health equity. So he's encouraging us all to engage deeply today, to ask challenging questions, to think critically about how we can collectively push the boundaries of health equity. He asked us to harness the power of collaboration, grounded in evidence and driven by shared commitment to justice and equality. So he's thanking us all for being here and for our unwavering dedication to this vital cause. And he looks forward to, he would look forward to the discussions. Maybe he's actually listening online. That would be wonderful. And also looking forward to the impactful outcomes of this meeting. So now I'll turn it over to the chair of the Culture of Health program, Tony Villarreal.
Thanks, Kimber. Are we still energized? All right, I hope so. So it certainly has been my privilege to serve as chair of this Culture of Health Committee and to be part of this initiative from the beginning. And I want to thank the RWJ Foundation for their leadership in creating, advancing, and leading efforts to create a culture of health and structural racism. I should ask how many RWJF grantees are in the audience. There's not too many degrees of separation. So again, the impact goes beyond the Academy. I also want to thank the National Academy of Medicine for taking on this challenge to work with RWJF in this new and amazing way. I think for the academies, it has been transformative. I don't have to tell any of you here that this is not easy work. It hasn't been easy work for us as the group of the Culture of Health. We have listened, we have debated, we have pivoted as we learn from the science and from the lived experiences of our communities as long-standing assumptions about science and about truth have been challenged. We challenge and have been challenged. I know many of you, like those who have been part of the Culture of Health, are in it for the long haul. Our journey has not been a straight shot. We started working on how to build a culture of health before COVID, before the murder of George Floyd, and when we as a nation could no longer ignore the disparities and structural inequities that have impacted so many in our communities. We are here today, but the pendulum has swung the other way. We are here today when existing policies to support equity in education, voting, reproductive rights have been eliminated or are under attack. In some states, we have been prohibited from sharing our history as we and our predecessors have experienced it. We are here today as a nation and are more polarized than ever across educational divides, racial divides, political divides, religious divides. This polarization is cemented in how we receive or are fed information or truth from social media, hearing only what we want to hear or believe, never hearing different perspectives. This polarization further reinforces racism, classism, sexism, ableism, and it impacts how we access and receive health care. We don't have to think very far to think about the polarization that came in our communities over pandemic mandates such as mask wearing, vaccination, and school closings. We are here today because of our commitment to health equity and the belief in our collective power to change. So today we ask for your engagement with us, and including those that are online. We ask that you listen with the aim of understanding, even if what you are hearing is different than what you might believe. We ask that you come with the generosity of spirit and resistance to judge what is being said and who is saying it. We ask that you share your perspectives and your truth so that we can better understand and move forward. We ask for your help in how we bridge sciences and the lived experiences as we plan a way forward. As one of the science academies, we are committed to vigorous research and evidence-based solutions, and yet we continue to grapple with the implicit and explicit bias of scientific methods and approaches of what and how we conduct research. We know that in this time of division, science alone, or even our traditional methods and truth, is not enough to achieve health equity. It's going to take all of us working together with our diverse experiences and perspectives, combining our strengths to move forward. I know we are up for the task. Are we up for the task? That doesn't sound very enthusiastic. All right, that's better. So we are so pleased to have you here together, and I look forward to the work ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony, for those inspirational remarks. I'd like to invite Jess up to the podium.
Feel extra tiny back here. So just as a point of order, is anyone hard of hearing, and can you hear me in the back of the room? You're good. Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate that. Just want to take a moment and see you. Nyanwe Skeno. These are words that are taught to me by my Seneca relatives, and in a way they mean, I'm thankful you're well. I'm glad to see you. But in additional translation, they mean, thank you for being. And so I just want to start by saying that to you. Thank you for being. Thank you for working hard on this and caring about our communities. And I'm grateful that each of you are here to do that. I'm here having served for more than 10 years in urban Indian health for the betterment of urban American Indians, Alaska Native people, of our people. I'm here as a representative of Native American Lifelines of Baltimore and of Boston, of the Baltimore American Indian Center. I'm here as a representative of the Circle Legacy Center, the American Indian Society of Washington, D.C., the Carlisle Indian School Project, the Mid-Atlantic Native Community, the Baltimore Urban Indian Community, and finally, my home, the Susquehanna Native Community, from the Muddy Creek and the Codorus Creek. I want to say here that we are grateful to this place and to its people, that and to all the ways that it sustains us, and we recognize our responsibilities to its life. So as you meet today, I would like you to consider this place, this land where we meet, its life, its spirit, its needs, and the crucial part of its body that is missing, its original people. The people created to live as a part of its being, the people critical to its balance, the people necessary for it to thrive. And so I would like you to consider the Nacotchtank, the Piscataway, the Pamunkey, the Patawomeck, the Rappahannock, the Taconic, the Nanakoke, the Susquehannock, tribes I haven't mentioned, and tribes whose names maybe have been forgotten by history. I'd also like you to consider all of their future generations. Consider what their absence or diminished presence in those relationships means to the land. Consider what lack of relationship to the land here and the life within it means to them. I would like you to consider why they are absent or underrepresented from this place. And I would like us all to acknowledge our part in that. I hope that you will remember that land is not a thing to acquire or tame, that it is alive and its people are a part of it. As you move forward with your day, do so with love and care and empathy for those people, those original people, for our people, for the land that we're on. All of us a part of one another. Move forward with your day considering what meaningful action you will take to correct that imbalance. To care for the people here now, the original people and our urban relatives from across Indian country here, working and learning and serving and finding community here. Consider what action you will take to protect and restore this place as it should be for our future generations. And so in this way, I'll say, we are here now. Take action to see us and heal that damage as you act in this place where we're from. Thank you very much.
Right. Thank you very much, Jess. As you see, this is not a typical meeting where we're sitting and we're just taking in information. This is an active meeting, active participation, active engagement in these ideas and these thoughts and these issues that we need to really take to heart and not only take them in this room, but also take them when you leave this room. So really appreciate setting up the day for us. Now I'd like to bring Jason Chu, who will bring yet another perspective to our meeting today, and perhaps more challenges for us to engage in.
Yeah, I guess I'll be right here. Hello. Oh, that was nice. I was gonna do a little thing, you know, a little. Oh, come on, DC, we can do. But that was pretty good. I genuinely mean that. I flew in from the West Coast yesterday, so that everybody has that energy is incredibly impressive to me at this hour of the day. So my name is Jason Chu, he, him, his. I'm a rapper, I'm a content creator, I'm a communications director at Hate is a Virus, which is a 501c3, an anti-racist 501c3. I'm also not quite sure why I'm the one with the microphone in his hand today. But I was really happy. I was really happy when the National Academies of Medicine team reached out because I'm a fan of this kind of work. The things that you all do. I read the bios. I did my homework, Kimber. I read the bios and I saw the names and the affiliations. And I want to say, first and foremost, it's an honor to be in this space with you. And I'm a fan of the work that y'all are doing. And these kinds of spaces, honestly, deeply excite me. Right? Where Because what I'll say is, from what I understand, the purpose of today is why I wound up doing music. So I grew up a Chinese kid in Delaware, in a predominantly white suburb. And I grew up in a way where there were risk factors constantly present throughout my life that were not articulated to me as such. The perils of being an Asian kid in a white suburb. And by perils here, I specifically don't even mean bullying or police brutality, which we've seen impact so many of our community. I mean even what this culture has normalized, what cultures in America have normalized as acceptable risk factors, right? But we know, thanks to the research of Daryl Wing-Soo and Kevin Nadal, right, the traumatic impact of microaggression. We know, and it seems so vast. And what I'll say, right, we're talking about culture and health today. It was hip hop culture that it's not an exaggeration to say it saved my life. It saved my life because it was the first thing that I saw that decentered a mainstream narrative and made marginality normative. It was the first cultural space that I was invited into that created norms of and articulated both implicitly and explicitly that marginality can be a place of power and agency. So growing up, my father is, he's actually in the health sciences. My father is by trade a polymer chemist. He worked with DuPont and then Dade Behring, and then he finished off his career at Siemens doing research on reagents for bioassays. And I thought that was a good way to go, right? That's a way to help others. But throughout my youth, I struggled with things that, that led to negative health outcomes that were not diagnosable on a bioassay, right? Decrease in quality of life, there's all of these things that hit home. And I realized, without articulating it as such to myself at the time, I realized that health and well-being has to be about a culture. It has to be about larger systems that interact and intertwine. This is what I discovered. So I went off, and I went to Yale University. I started off as a bio major because, again, this is how I've observed my father helping people. But then as I went through my undergrad experience, I reflected on what it was that had ameliorated my own quality of life. And I realized that for me, so much of that lay in the arts. And so I had friends that did stay in bio. I have friends who are, MD, PhDs. I have friends who are researchers. I have friends who are clinicians. I have friends who are MFTs. And that's why I really am not exaggerating or blowing smoke when I say I'm a fan of what this convening in particular is here to do, and all of y'all. And if I'm here to add my voice to the proceedings, it's because I desire deeply for us to intertwine. Because, again, this is what led me into media. Because I felt like my role in this ecosystem, my role in this intertwining, could be as a voice. And this is what I've done. I try to create things. Here's a piece off of an album we put out in 2021, addressing anti-Asian American racism. It's called Model Minority. And we said, in our wallets, they're thinking we got commas, Really, in back pockets, we're carrying deep traumas. Hang tied us by our own trousers. Seen as outsiders, they used to redline us. Tom called us outwhiting the white scholars. Drove a divide between us and our black brothers. You got admitted to dominant white college, still you ain't valid for most of them white collars. Southeast Asian dark cousins drive down the streets, police radio buzzing. Gaslighted to thinking we made progress, still they killed Christian Hall and said nothing. We're not a model, not a monolith. I'm not a pawn for your politics. I learned from Gandhi and Dr. King, if this system don't bring peace, we must abolish it. And it was hip hop that gave me this voice, and hip hop that taught me the power at the same time of specificity and solidarity. It was learning from black and brown voices who stood in their specificity and said, I don't need to appeal to you, to speak powerfully to you. In fact, the opposite. I'm gonna stand in my truth and force you to come to me because I believe in my power. And that's what I, as a Chinese American kid growing up in a predominantly white suburb, never heard vocalized in mainstream media narratives, never heard vocalized the power of specificity. But it also showed me the power of solidarity, the power of what some would call hybrid vigor, or the power of what social philosopher Vijay Prashad would call polyculturalism. Because see, polyculturalism is different from multiculturalism. And I think, and this again goes back to the agenda today, where what I'm hearing about this publication is we are bringing specificity to the table in a way that enables us to stand together, to advocate for each other. Because multiculturalism says, that's wonderful. The Asians are here. The Pacific Islanders are here. Latinx folks are here. Indigenous folks are here. Black folks are here. White folks are here. Great, that's awesome. You all bring your own sauce, but the sauce is sessile. It's stagnant, right? Your Asianness, that's great. Keep bringing your Asianness. And you're only valuable insofar as your Asianness is credible. And as soon as your Asianness starts getting touched by things you've been adjacent to, now you're not multicultural anymore. You're just kind of, we don't know what you are. But in this notion of hybrid vigor, which I was taught in very basic biology classes, right? You're all much farther than I am. This is what I got. Right, but what I was taught is that when we intermix and intermingle, when DNA starts to blend into each other, we learn, so as I'm going to extrapolate here to the social level, to the intercommunal level, right? We can start mixing and mingling things that can now sit alongside each other in the way that a Yuri and a Malcolm did, or in the way that a Grace Lee Boggs did, or in the way that a Cesar Chavez and a Dolores Huerta and a Larry Itliong did. We can work together to support each other. So I'll say this as I land this. I genuinely believe that for movements to progress, we need poets, philosophers, patrons, and people, right? We need people to speak the message. We need people to be coming up with the message and what to put out there, good work to put out there. We need patrons. We need people funding the work. Thank you to the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. But we need the people also. And that's what's neat about this, right? We need to create cultures of interlocking skill sets, interlocking experiences. We all know the statistics, right? We know the elevated risk factors present in our communities. Marginal folks have increased risk factors for so many things. And we know that what creates that is systemic. So what's going to answer it is not going to be individual interventions. What's going to answer that is creating an alternative culture, one that we can inject and rewrite cultures with. So I was told to close off with a call to action for participants to engage deeply with the day's discussions and the outcomes. So please do that. Please, look, we're gonna have a lot coming our way today. I trust, I am usually in the back corner on my laptop, so I know how these things go. I'm gonna ask, I believe that deeply does not mean we have to swallow the ocean, right? So what I'd ask two things. One is breathe in, steel yourself, and know that if your attention slips, if you get hungry, if you need to just zone for a minute, that's okay. There's no shame in that. You're here to get some good work done, and good work will be done whether you're present for 100% or 98%. So be gracious to yourselves. And the other thing I'd ask, and this is something that I've learned in DC, coming here for different meetings, when I'm around very rich people, they are very good at being clear about what they're there to give and what they need to get. And I would ask the same, whether you're online, in the chat, whether you're at your tables. I think many of us here hopefully have things we can give. And many of us here probably have things we need to get as well. And what I would ask is that you try to find people whose needs and whose resources match up with yours. Because to me, that's a successful step forward. That's what it would mean to deeply engage, would be to build some connections here that can lead to something. So that's my special presentation. I hope it was special for y'all. It sure was special for me. And with that said, I am honored, genuinely honored to introduce the first panel. So this panel is going to be about systemic and structural changes as crucial levers to address racism and its impacts on healthcare and health outcomes.